Star Wars Shatterpoint gameplay has been revealed, and I have to say I'm actually more excited now than I was previously. So there's two ways to check out the full demo games. One of them is been posted by Atomic Mass Games is on the YouTube channel. However, if I'm honest, I enjoy part 2 of JodoCast video a little bit clearer. The audio and the camera quality maybe a little bit better. I'll leave links to both in the description below. Now I'm not going to cover every rule here because that would be a little bit weird, nor am I actually going to show you footage of what they took because it's not mine. But I will try and summarize the best I can, right? So there's a lot of interesting thing to talk about. How you control objectives, for example, is interesting. It's whoever has the most amount of models. I think they actually call those characters within range 2, and it works in a situation where it has to be taken off you. So if I claimed it first and then you actually got the same number of models against me, well, it doesn't flip. It would only flip when you control it. I think they also said that you have to be on the same elevation first for that range 2, but let's not talk about the details too much here. We finally found out what that funky looking movement tool was. That is literally just a shove tool. It's literally just range 1. It's so you can get under the terrain and stuff like that. By the way, the boards at Adepticon look pretty damn sweet. Another interesting thing is that if you have a unit of 2, so like the clone troopers or the droids for example, they do not have to be anywhere near each other. And when you do a move, they literally both get to move, and I'm assuming when they get to attack, they both get to attack. So you could have one on the other side of the table attacking and moving against another unit, whilst the one on the other side is doing the same thing against another unit. Like, that's crazy, but pretty interesting, right? It sort of gives them power where they probably don't have power on the cards. In the JodoCast video, for example, it shows Anakin Skywalker effectively murdering some droids, if you can murder droids. Movement works pretty much like we expected. Basically, you can do your normal movement in anything that's below height 2, which is the actual movement 2. I think they said, is that 3 inches? I think that's 3 inches, right? Anything above that though, you need to climb, and then that's the short movement up. A little bit like Star Wars Legion has changed to, I think. However, if you end your normal movement near a ladder or a point of elevation increase, so maybe like an elevator or something, you can literally just pop yourself on the top for free, basically. You can only do the same action twice unless overtly stated otherwise. There are hunker tokens that basically just give you an extra defense dice, but you keep those basically. You don't have them removed until your next activation. So that's actually pretty strong, I think. Unless I'm getting some of the rules wrong, by the way. Obviously, this is a demo. It's not a rule book, you know what I mean? So just be aware of that. We already knew that nobody scores turn 1. Cover also gives you a defense dice. I possibly should have mentioned that. And cover is very abstract. So if there is any terrain in the line between your base and your opponent's base, you get it, providing you can see. And the example that Will gives in actually the JodoCast video is there's basically a walkway, and if you're shooting underneath the walkway, then you still get cover. That might be a little bit too abstract for some people, but it does add to the simplicity, right? And presumably, if you're on the terrain shooting off the terrain or vice versa, you're going to get cover as well, so that'll be 1 defense dice. When a unit has a tactical ability that is done at the start of the activation, the actual Shatterpoint card, or the command card itself, will have a little logo that sort of reminds you. It sounded like melee is range 2, and I think you can get caught up in melee, but that wasn't necessarily fully revealed, or at least I don't remember it. If you're wounded, you can't hold people in melee or contest an objective, so there must be some way of holding them in place, but I just don't know how that works right now. There was some interesting thing with the momentum. If, for example, you're the winning side at the end of a turn, the other side gets a momentum, and if it's in the middle, I think you both get momentum as well. Basically, it sounds like these games are going to get quicker and quicker, but it's going to be very hard to win like your first couple of activations, but by the end of your activations, you're probably nearly there for one of the shatter points or whatever they're called. There's pin tokens where you can't move until basically you do an action until you activate, and then I think it gets rid of it. And there's a lot of movement. So there was a lot of like synergy where somebody got to move if this happened, and then somebody else got to move this time. And when you shove, you can shove them back 1 inch, and then you can follow up 1 inch, or you actually could probably shove them, maybe you could shove them towards you, that'd be a bit weird, and then move yourself away. There looks like there's going to be a lot of shenanigans when it comes to movement. Overall, there was a lot here that I definitely liked. The combat trees worked as we pretty much expected. Every success sends you 1 line along it, one box along it. Some of the tokens were more explained. I'm not going to go into too much details. It'd just be easier to read the rulebook rather than me tell you how to play in this video. But I have to say, having seen it played, I was excited. The game actually seems to play really well. Nothing really crazily illogical is happening. And whilst we had some concerns about the combat stances and stuff like that, once you've seen it once, I think it's just going to click. Probably the same for the missions. It sounds like there's only 1 mission in the box, and that's going to be shifting priorities. And that's going to be where you put these objectives in that grid system. And then for the first turn, it's going to be like that X. and then for the second turn, the person who lost the first one can pick which objectives, basically. Not the objectives, but which card, when that tells you the objectives to pick, and that's going to give them an advantage, and same for round 3. Although round 3 will only ever be whoever won round 1. But yeah, I'm very optimistic. The game, having seen it played now, obviously they don't actually finish the game, right, so I don't really know how long it's going to take, but the game itself looks very, very smooth. The things that looked complicated to read in person, or like in the actual game, seem actually quite intuitive. I have no idea how balance will be, we obviously don't know that yet, but overall, yeah, it was very, very interesting. My one sort of criticism is probably the attack dice. They're this weird sort of like shade of beige. It does not pick up well on camera. Now, that's not really that big of a problem, but I would have loved to have seen them actually just go with red. I know they might be like, that's a bit too similar to Star Wars Legion, but red and blue, I think it would have just made more sense than the sort of like grey colour that they've picked. I think if you like the chaos of Star Wars and you like that sort of feel of skirmishes, then this game will be for you. If you like the big battles of Star Wars and you're interested in like a full army versus army, then Legion will obviously have you covered. But I do really think that this looks like a very solid skirmish game. Personally now, I think I've seen enough to pre-order. When you consider what you get from other games and how much information you get about other games, I think we're at that point, right? Most people will pre-order based on what they've seen. If you're really apprehensive now, then just wait until people actually have it in their hands and they'll do full reviews. When they've actually played several games, they'll be able to give you a bit more of an idea of what it's going to play like. Personally, I'm still actually not pre-ordering, not because I don't want to, because I'm sort of waiting for the Ahsoka Tano, if that's actually going to come into the UK or not. Obviously, we don't really know what's going on. Some place I think they said they were going to get a very small allocation. I probably missed out on that, so I'm not really too worried about that. But yeah, I probably will pre-order when we get closer and closer. I just don't want to do it right now, in the hope that I'll find something better, basically. The best deal, the cheapest deal, or whatever's going to give me Ahsoka, right? I have to confess, I don't really see myself going back to Star Wars Legion. In a way, Shatterpoint's probably going to give me everything that I'd want from Legion in that sort of like skirmishy type of game, but in a quicker package, less models, perhaps more intrigue. For my actual big skirmish, for my actual big tabletop game, I'm probably going to play Warhammer the Old World when that comes out. I'm just going to accept that the balance in that game is going to be like pretty terrible, but I just like it, right? That's my true love at heart, I guess. Legion sort of doesn't quite fulfill me in either category that I want the way that I would want. It's still a great game. I still think it's fantastic. I think it's probably better than 40k and probably better than 40k 10th edition, but you know, it's perhaps just not for me. But that's my thoughts. There's some of the rules that we've picked up. I'm not sure what we're now going to get from this point until the pre-orders. Are we actually going to start getting closer looks at the stuff that's not out yet? That's going to be interesting. Will this end up going on Tabletop Simulator? I reckon you could actually probably put it on Tabletop Simulator right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the next week or two. Well, I don't know how long that'll take, but you know what I mean. But yeah, they're my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As I said, I'll leave the links to the 2 videos I'm talking about. If I missed anything super critical or crucial, do let me know in the comments below as well. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.